Yeah, wow, there's a lot of familiar faces here. Now, if I had the opportunity to audit your taxes, all of you would list the same occupation on your tax form, and that is serial activist, because I've seen you all working in various places around this country. Some of you are working from the grassroots. Some of you are working from the faith community. Some of you are running a business. Some of you are running local governments. And all of you are fighting for fairness. How many of you, is this your first visit to the White House? Well, welcome to the White House, okay? Let me tell you, it'll never get old. This is not my first visit to the White House. And every time I come here, I understand the privilege that it is to be here. And I have a little note on my desk. And today it says 211. There's 211 days till the weekend, okay? Now, I don't simply count the days, but you want to make the days count. That's what the late, great Muhammad Ali said. Don't count the days, make the days count. And one way in which I have tried my hardest to make every day count, the days that have preceded us today and the 211 days till the weekend, is to address the critical piece of unfinished business in our recovery. And that is to make sure that the rising tide lifts all boats. Because I remember where we were. We all remember where we were back in 2009. Truth number one here is that this president inherited a mess. It was the worst mess of our lifetimes. The economy was hemorrhaging 2.3 million jobs in the 3 months before he took office. And now you fast forward, we've had 75 consecutive months of private sector job growth to the tune of $14.5 million, a tribute to the grit and determination of businesses, of workers, of leaders who made tough choices, of labor unions who worked together in coalition with business and others to build shared prosperity. We have, our economy has grown more than, most other economies combined. So we are making real progress. But the second truth is that we've got unfinished business. And you are all part of that. It's that struggle, the timeless struggle to build a more perfect union. And I make a point of making house calls. I know Buzz, I thought I saw Buzz. There he is. I made a house call with Bobby Scott to Buzz's place. And I wish I had gotten seconds, because Buzz makes some good barbecue. And Buzz understands that you don't have to make good barbecue at the expense of your workers. You make good barbecue side by side with your workers. And so, Buzz, thank you for the example that you set. And the reason you do well is because you understand that the high road is the smart road. Just last week, I was in Seattle and I ran into, don't tell the First Lady, Molly. I saw Molly here. Molly's in the front row. Molly Moon. If y'all want ice cream, go to Molly Moon's, but don't tell the First Lady, okay? Because her ice cream is superb. And her business model of engagement and partnership with her workers is even better. Holly has been so helpful because I will be honest, one of the things that frustrates me the most is when we talk about the economic and moral imperative of paying fair wages, the economic and moral imperative of lifting the federal minimum wage and doing what other states are doing to go above it to reflect the geographic disparities of the cost of living. And then you hear that, oh, it'll be bad for business. It'll be bad for business. And my biggest critique of so many of the groups that are here in Washington advocating, in quotes, for business, is that they're all too frequently lowest common denominator groups. They're only as good as their least progressive member. And so you advocate for your least progressive member. Well, that's why the work that Holly's doing to make the case that, you know what, the NFIB does not speak for real business in this country. I appreciate that because everywhere I go, I'll talk to business owners, large, small, and in between, and ask the question, what can I do to help? What do you need most? The most frequent answer I get to that question, customers. Customers. I want more customers. There's more people at Buzz's place There's more money in the till. That's pretty good things. But you know what happens when people make $7.25 an hour? They don't go out to eat. They don't get ice cream. That's why the folks in Seattle understood this. And there's so many enlightened people. One of the things I remember most vividly about the $15 minimum wage in Seattle is that the day that we announced step one, it was April 1st, 2015, no fooling. The day we were there, I was there with the mayor. I was there with the SEIU Fight for 15 folks. Thank you, Alfonso, for making sure California is at the forefront as well. And I was there with the head of the Seattle Restaurant Association. That was pretty cool. You know, because the National Restaurant Association, you know, the other NRA, they are here saying that $2.13 ought to be the minimum wage for tipped workers. And guess what happened when the government got shut down by the Republicans? You know what? Washington kind of shut down. Guess what happens when you're a tipped worker at a restaurant? You are in poverty. You got fixed costs. You don't call your landlord and say, hey, you know what? You know, the government got shut down, so I didn't make any money. So you'll cut me some slack. And you know, if those folks from the NFIB were correct about the disastrous impact of minimum wage laws, Seattle, and I note Washington generally, is one of the states that doesn't have a tip credit. Now, I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to Washington, but it would stand to reason then that if they were correct that paying tipped workers the same minimum wage as everybody else, well then, it stands to reason that every time you land at SeaTac Airport, you better have a bag lunch because all the restaurants should be shutting down. Well, there's some good eating in Seattle. I'm here to tell you that. And by the way, there's some of the best ice cream in America in Seattle, and it's at Molly Moon's. And she's created a virtuous cycle. Buzz has created a virtuous cycle. So many others have created a virtuous cycle. And a few years ago, they talked about the Fight for 15 movement, and people scoffed at it. Who's this Mary Kay Henry anyway? They said, she must be crazy. She was crazy like a fox. That's what she was. And the Alfonsos of the world, and so many other members in the union movement, businesses that were aligned with the union movement, faith leaders that were aligned, local government leaders that were aligned, who said, you know what? $7.25 an hour ain't enough to feed your family. It's inconsistent with the letter and spirit of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which stands for the basic proposition that nobody who works a full-time job in this country should have to live in poverty. Well, here's the thing. 20% of our nation's population now lives in states or cities that have either passed $15 or are about to do so. That is a remarkable movement. That is no longer a moment. It is a movement. And I say congratulations to you. You truly are champions for change. Buzz, you are a champion for change. Molly and everyone in this room is a champion for change. And sometimes I have some of the greatest admiration for people who are championing change in states where they say, well, this is a federal matter. And then they tell their federal folks here in Washington, don't raise the minimum wage as a federal matter. So then you go to Birmingham and you say, okay, we're going to take the bull by the horns here. Is Doug here? There is Doug, there. You know, so Doug and others say, okay, so we'll do it in Birmingham. Well, then the guy who represents the most affluent district, or one of the most affluent districts outside of Birmingham, concludes that this affluent district outside of Birmingham knows what's best for the people of the city of Birmingham, and they need low wages. Trust me, they need low wages, says the affluent guy from the suburb of Birmingham. You're doing God's work there, Doug. And by the way, your state stands for the proposition that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Which one of your Republican state leaders isn't under investigation right now? But that's an aside. Hey, I'm not making it up. Talk to the governor. Who got impeached recently? The speaker or whoever it was. Hey, state chief justice of the Supreme Court. Well, he's got issues too, you know. I digress. For which I should apologize. And we'll consider it. But I'll tell you, I look at Mayor Levine in Miami, and they're fighting the same battle, because I've had the good fortune of spending some time down there, and I always have a lot of fun, because it's a remarkable place to be, and you really, Miami Beach is a great town, and you know what? It ain't cheap to live in. I mean no disrespect in saying that. And the mayor recognizes that. And so he's wanted to do something about it, because he wants to make sure that every resident of Miami Beach and everyone who's working in Miami Beach can thrive. So he's fighting a battle right now. I wrote an op-ed in one of the publications down there supporting him, because he ought to. I think the person who knows what's best for Miami Beach is the mayor of Miami Beach, not somebody else in Tallahassee. And so you are a champion as well, and I'm so glad, Mayor, that you were able to come here. Chris Owens and what she's done at NELP is impossible to overstate the importance, because there's all these serial activists all over the country. And what the president has said to us is, work with them, because they are marshaling the collective power of we in every single community to create change, to lift wages. So you need to help them, Tom, and we're doing that. And we're doing that in partnership with Chris, because Chris gets it. And so one of the things I hope you'll know today is you are leaders, you are champions for change, and you are not alone. The arc of the moral universe in this country is indeed long, but it undeniably bends toward justice. And it undeniably does not bend on its own. So I hope you will keep causing good trouble. I hope you will continue to build a business model that is what I call a stakeholder model of governance. Everybody does well when all stakeholders do well. Shareholders do best when all stakeholders do well. That is what so many Fortune 500 companies are learning. And you learn it from the bottom up, whether you operate a 30-person business or a Fortune 500 company. So keep up the great work. And I'm here to say thank you. And I hope you know that you have a partner in the Department of Labor. You have a partner in this president. I am proud of the fact that we issued a rule that helps 2 million home health workers get access to basic minimum wage and overtime protections, because people like Barbara Carr, where's Barbara? She was here somewhere. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara has given voice to this issue. Thank you for what you're doing here. Thanks for what you're doing in Flint. Thanks for what you're setting, the example that you're setting across America. Aaliyah Todd, thank you for what you're doing in Asheville, because again, you can have a sustainable restaurant and take care of your workers. We know that. We've seen that. And you're doing it everywhere. So keep on keeping on. I'll leave you with this. There was an interesting set of events in the House of Representatives yesterday. And a number of House members basically locked the place down. And it was really interesting, because then they shut off C-SPAN. Curious move. John Lewis, one of my heroes, he had his hashtag out. It was hashtag good trouble. And that's what they were causing yesterday, good trouble. When you pay a decent wage, you're causing good trouble. You're creating virtuous communities. You are rewarding work. And that's what our nation's all about, rewarding work with a decent wage. Keep doing it. We're going to keep fighting at a federal level. It is a when question here at a federal level. Republicans will continue to oppose this at their peril, because the American people get that 7.25 is a poverty wage. So let's keep on keeping on together. Let's keep on causing good trouble together. And thank you for the example that you set in every single community. And have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the White House. It's a remarkable place.